Whenever we take him through a doorway, gateway, curb, we always do this. Have him sit, step through to accentuate the fact that this is your boundary, not his. He doesn't go through unless he goes through with you. And see, I can walk through a bunch of times. He knows that he stays there until I come back and get him. And then he only walks through with me when I say, okay, and make sure you slow him down. See, I just tap the leash a little bit. If he's at all pulling, you want to slow down when you cross the threshold because we don't want him racing through the threshold like he used to do. And then we're going to have him sit with the door closed. Sit. Open the door. Okay. Okay. I'm going to have him sit right here so you can see him. You probably couldn't see him back there because he's so dark. You have a dog barking at him in there, which is a good distraction. No. Make sure he really waits. So you're going to do this in and out of any doorway when he's on leash. Okay. And a lot of us would have our doors open during the summer, and if he's on free time, you know, and that's the way you do it at your house, and your yard is fenced, maybe it's a back door, that's a different thing. But whenever you have him on the leash, always do the boundary training, because he's got to stop and think and focus and do it your way every time you go through boundaries. You have to take him through doorways, gateways, and across curbs anyway, so you might as well practice this. Your training really is when you take him out and when you, when you go through these boundaries. And so why not use it to your benefit and practice him being calm and respectful and not pulling you through each way. Now we're going to go do the gateway and the curb. Okay. Sit. We're going to go on our walk out in public now. I had him sit. We always have him sit first before we open the door because very often dogs will pop up when the door is open. So I want to make sure that he can handle staying in a sit stay when we open the door. And see how he's waiting there. Okay, oh, I hope you can see him sit. I'm going to have him sit a little bit closer to the threshold to make sure you can see him waiting. I step out. I step back. Nope. See, that time he popped up. So you could do it that way where you say no and you apply a little bit of pressure and he goes back, and then do it again. Okay. And then if you're by yourself, you'll have to do a little left turn to close the gate or the doorway or whatever it is. Whenever you have an opportunity to turn into him, it's a good thing because it's a very dominant move. Sit. And every time that you do that, it's a little dose of dominance, a little dose of leadership on your part. If you do it the other way and you drag him around to your right, he's going to get overstimulated, excited on that tight leash, and nothing good comes from that tight leash. You want to avoid tight leashes at all costs. That's why it's always loose. You're tapping and releasing instead of restraining at all times, because that restraining makes him pull more. It makes him more overstimulated, and you want to have him relaxed and calm. So you're always doing okay, tapping, release, see how that slows him down, and turning if you have to, because when you go left, sit, you go left, it draws him back next to you. You turn left, it draws him back next to you, and therefore the leash is loose, just naturally that way. Also, that left turn, your body literally hurting his, is a safe way to dominate him, that makes him feel like he's okay because you're taking care of him, because you're doing the right body language moves. Since dog training is mostly body language, it really matters a lot when you keep doing that. And you could be a 100-pound woman and still be really in charge of your dog because of the way you handle him. So always do that left turn. For example, if I'm going to go right, I'm going to use this opportunity. Okay, do a little left turn to go right. Sit. So that's just an example. And now we've got one more curb to do before we start the walk. Okay, come on. Sit. I decided to do it here because we have a dog that's barking here, and it's a bigger distraction in this strange looking vehicle right here. And I had him sit, and yeah, he's interested. Good. That was maybe a harder sit stay for him to have this dog that's like 15 feet away barking at him. So I gave him a reward in this case. But most of the time I don't give him rewards for sit because I don't have to anymore because he does them so well. And anything that he starts doing really well and never makes a mistake at anymore, you phase the food out for that. Okay, we're going to cross the street here, go to the other side. And the street is the calm zone. So from the curb where you have him sit, across the street, and if he starts to pull, you just tap like that. See, I'm walking really slow. I'm exaggerating the slowness so you can see how well he does. Sit on the other side. He's a little bit nervous. There's a lot going on behind the camera person. You don't have to show it though. I had him sit, and over here, after you cross the street, and it's from a sit stay, calm sit stay, loose leash, go. He's free. And you can start the walk again. Now when he's on free time, and come follow me, when he's on free time, he might try to pull a little bit. The walk is supposed to be I think, a calm, fun, relaxing thing that you do with your dog. So he can sniff, he can pee, he can do whatever, he can look around. As long as that leash is loose, and let's say he starts pulling you, all you have to do is tap like that, and he knows that move really well, and he will stop. Let's say that for some reason he's really out of control with you. Come, call him back to you a few times. Good. Like I'm doing now. Let's pretend he's pulling me. Come. Good. Just do that a few times to get him back on track. Come. Good. And the more that you do this, practice your recall, the closer you're going to see he kind of like hangs out around you when he's on free time, and the less pulling you'll have. So if you find that he's extra excited out in the street or anywhere, do a number of recalls in a row like that, and it will calm him down, and it will stop. Also, over time, you'll see he's pulling less and less if you keep doing that. Here we go. Sit. Thought I would come and practice his sit stay and down stay in a very public place where there's a lot of distractions, just to show you how good he is at it now. And of course we practiced here before out in public. We have a cart coming straight for him, so that kind of spooked him. So you'd say no and you'd reset him. There's all of a sudden everybody started coming past. And now we have like somebody in a cart, like a wheelchair, motorized thing. Good. So I'm not restraining him, but I am keeping him in his sit by rewarding him as they pass by. But you're never having a tight leash, because that'll actually make him break out of his sit stay, because it'll make him nervous and he won't be focused. If you do this, it'll cause him to be overstimulated and stressed out, and he'll break out of his sit. And you'll have to force him to stay there, which is not training, of course. So I keep the leash loose, but if there's a big distraction passing by, I'm going to reward him as they pass by, and the food keeps him calm and keeps him in his sit stay. And at the same time, every time we do this, he becomes more and more desensitized to those distractions, so later on you don't need the food for him anymore. He gets up, you say nope, do your little reset, gently but firmly put him back, and I'm barely applying a little bit of pressure. So it's not jerking and popping, it's really all about the light touch. So now I'm just going to practice just a basic sit stay where I walk around in both ways. And you don't have to practice with him in a place like this, of course. You can do this in your living room or in your driveway where there's nothing going on. But when he does something successfully, you come back next to him, reward him like this. Eye contact. Good. Straight down. He's literally looking at me in the eyes as he takes the treat. In this situation here, it's very valuable to do it that way. It's so much better than this, where he waits for your hand to come out of the sky somehow, and somehow it's attached to you, but it's not really clear. Eye contact at the moment you give him the treat, when he's in a sit, is very important to do, because it just makes for a better bond between you and him. So to release him, if you're going to walk with him, you're going to say, okay, and he'll walk with you, and he's still on the clock. Make sure he doesn't launch into pulling, so you might have to slow down and tap like that. And if you're going to release him to be free, sit. He's on your left, so with your right hand, you're going to wait till this guy passes. You're going to tap his chest and say, go. And now he's free. Down. Here he needs a little bit of help because he's kind of excited because of all the things happening around here. Lots of people, lots of carts, lots of noises. So you saw at the same moment that I said the command, I stepped on the leash, but I didn't force him down, and I barely had any pressure at all on the leash, and you'll see how that works when you're practicing with him. But when you're in a difficult situation where he might not be that focused, you want to always, if you have to help him with the down command, down, just like that. It's all simultaneous. You don't want to say the command, have him ignore you, and then force him down, or then do that. You might have to do it occasionally, but if you know that he's not quite solid yet on his down command, just do it that way every time for a while, and then later on, he's of course going to get better and better after he comes to you and after you practiced for a while after he's left here. So just keep doing it that way, and you'll see good. His down command gets a lot stronger, a lot more instantaneous without the foot help. And of course the stay is just, basic stay is where I walk around both ways, walk around him both ways, and if he pops up you say no. Calmly reset him, put him back. And he knows this really well. He knows the training well now, so we have a lot of carts going past, and it will spook him, and we have something coming really close to him. And see how, once again, just like when I was doing the sit command, you're not going to hold him down, you're going to desensitize him to a distraction with food like that. I saw it coming, give him a nice little pile of food. He munched out on it as it passed by, and he barely noticed that giant cart going right behind him. So it's a really valuable exercise to do. It's really about how you use the food that matters. It's when you give him the food that matters. If I would have given him the rewards too soon and he was done by the time I was here, he probably would have popped up. If I would have waited too long to give him the treat when the thing was already there, it would have been too late, and he would already been scared or startled, and good. It would have been too late. So anyway, it's all about timing, and you see how I do it here on the video. The way to release him out of a down is you come back and stand back next to him, pat your leg and say, okay. Have him sit, because you always release him from a calm sit stay, and you tap his chest and say, go. The reason that we release him that way is because if you release him straight out of a down, he's going to jump up and probably be excited. But when we release him okay like that and then have him sit, so he's still on the clock until you have him sit and release him from the sit stay, it's a much easier way to sit. For example, you can really reinforce that calm release. Your hand can be down there for a few seconds. Go. Instead of him just jumping up and being, excited. So that's a great little thing to do as well when you're releasing him, is to sit, pause like this for a few seconds. Always a loose leash, of course. You're never restraining him there. And making sure he's really waiting for you to release him. Go. Because if you start letting him jump the gun, and you see it all the time, the people are about to release the dog, and the dog's like, yeah, I know you're about to release me, I'm just going to go. You really will have nothing if you allow him to start jumping the gun and being anticipatory like that, because the whole idea of this training is that the byproduct of how we do it, and the release is really an important part of that, the byproduct is that when we release him out of a sit stay or down stay, he's a little bit calmer every time because of how we do it. So we're really trying to do the training, and as you can see, in the presence of ever-increasing distractions like here, which we've worked up to over time, so that he becomes calmer 24/7 and over time he's not skittish anymore. He's much more confident in public places or whatever might go on. So we're really after, like, the byproduct of the training is to stabilize him, 24/7. Okay. And so I wanted to show you what happens when we meet a dog on the street. Come. You got to be on top of it. I think he might have a little dog overstimulation on a leash on the street. Come. Keep calling him back to you. You see how I'm doing it? Don't let him pull you over. Come. If he looks, see, that time I had to tap him a little bit. That dog also was wearing a funny outfit of some sort, and the whole thing was a little bit strange, but that just happened impromptu, and so I wanted to get it on film. So when you're surprised, we were walking along here and the dog popped out of that car right there, right in front of us, so I wanted to get it on film, what to do when that happens to you. And he was a little bit startled and surprised, and so what I did was I used the recall command. Come, because it will always work to get him out of trouble, to get you out of trouble. And probably the best thing for you to do, you called him to come, let's say the dog was still there. See how I took the leash with my left hand, get him on the other side of some physical block like a tree or car, cross the street and keep going. Don't try to walk past that dog on a 6 foot wide sidewalk or something. It might be okay, but why take a chance? When he's really interested in another dog, you don't take a chance. Practice your recall a few times like I did, and then get him out of there, because if you do it that way, over time, you'll see that his interest in other dogs on the street will fade away, because the pattern is that you always call him away, and you'll see, if you practice that a lot, you'll see that one day, before you call him to come, right before you're about to call him to come, he's turned around and coming back to you anyway. When he does that, big handful of treats, big reward, because that means that pattern is internalized, and now you don't have to say come, because he'll just turn around from a dog, but you need to pay that every time so that new pattern of behavior continues to grow in strength. But that could take a while. That could take a few weeks of you doing something like this every day. You're going to have to practice a little while to have what I have on the video. It took me a month or 5 weeks actually to get to this point, because he's been with us that long. And I think it's been about 5 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, but he does know the training, but now he has to get used to practicing with you, and it might take you at least a couple of weeks of practicing for him to get used to doing all this stuff with you as he's doing with me. Okay. Sit. I always walk Rhino up to the person before I introduce him, and step away from him. He's in a sit stay. I step away from him, hand the person a treat. You see how so if he tries to jump the gun, if I wasn't talking to you, I would have said no and tapped him. But what happened just then was I just held fast to the leash. He went to the end of the leash, and that little training collar, which closes all the way around evenly, back of the neck and the front, all the way around, did its work, and he backed up and put himself back. So it's either a tap like that, or you let him go to the end of it. And that little training collar, if it's used properly, really helps you with these situations. So I'm going to do that again. Step away. He already has the treat, and then he waits till I come back. And see, the leash is always loose. You're never restraining him. With my right hand, I'm going to pat his chest, and that's really cute, but it's not accepted. Go say hi. He's going to get the treat, and I'm going to say, come. Good. And this person knows him. He knows this person, but if it's a stranger, there's a couple of really important rules. Sit. Notice how I did the reset circle, which you see in other parts of this video as well, is that you never have a stranger approach, because that can put a dog that may be protective on edge. So you always ask them to wait, and they have a gift for him to accept, and you send him to them, and because we practice it every day with a bunch of different people, he knows what to do, so you really just have to do my moves. He sits and waits. Because he has to wait, he has to be thinking and focused. It's a lot harder for him to be reactive, when he's working for you in a sit stay. And of course we've practiced it so that he knows exactly how this goes. So if you do it this way and you're plugging in your new people or your friends, whoever you want to introduce them to, he's like, oh, I've done this a million times. The only part for him to learn is to do it in a different household or on a different property with new people. But he knows how it goes. So you do what we're doing here and he'll click into doing it with you pretty quickly. Go say hi, treat, come, and we'll just do it 3 times. Good. Also, you get to practice your sit stay, your go command, sit, and your come command. And this is just a really fun little game in his mind that changes his perception of what it means to meet a new person, because he gets a treat there, he gets a treat here. It's just a fun game, but there are rules that he has to follow. Like he's got to wait until you actually go, pat his chest, come, and you can see, good, we're doing this, sit very calmly. I'm not rushing it, I'm not being hyper. When I release him, it's a very calm and steady release. And I actually pause down there for a couple of seconds to make sure he's really waiting for me to allow him to go over. He's not anticipating what I'm about to do and jumping the gun, because most dogs will do that unless you really practice that, reinforcing that calm release where he really waits to be allowed to do that. That's really important because we're dealing with states of mind here, and by the byproduct of doing all these things in the specific way we do it, we're developing a higher level of focus in the dog and teaching him how to think at a higher level, therefore building up his tolerance to stress and making him feel safer. And if you're calling the shots when it comes to this stuff, he's going to be more confident and feel like he's being taken care of instead of him guarding you like you're a possession to guard. And that's all built in here as well. So do it exactly like this, and also don't do it in your house. If he's protective, you want to do it out, at least in your yard, in an open area. No, and I know I'm talking too much. He's doing very well, very patient. It's better to do these greeting routines outside or in a big open area that's more neutral. The worst place to do it is to let somebody walk through your front door and do it inside his space in a living room or someplace like that inside your house. So bring him out, introduce this way, and if we were going to take this person in the house one more time, nope. He gets up, just do that little circle, reset him. You don't have to say SIT again because we already told him to once. So now we're going to go in the house. I give this person a big handful, and then we would follow him into the house, and we would both go through. He would go in first because if you had a stranger walking behind you, that might make you nervous. So he goes in first. We're not going to do it, but I'm just going to describe it. He goes into the big room, turns around, he's waiting for you. He comes through the door. You send him to the person one more time. He gets a giant payoff, and it will change his perception of that person being in the house as well. Remember, dogs behave situationally, so the situation that would trigger him would be, he would be on the inside and the stranger would walk through coming in, but if you turn it around, he's never had that experience before where they're already in there and he's coming in, and he won't be triggered the way he would be triggered if you did it the other way. And it's a chance for you to develop in him a new perception of what it means to have somebody inside there. So you turn it all around. See, he just wants to go over so badly. And you can change his perception of what it means to meet a new person and have a new person in your house. Sit. Always walk him up to his crate, have him sit first. This is a very important boundary in his life. It's his den. That's the way we use the crate. We develop it as his den because dogs are naturally den animals. So it becomes a place he wants to go into, and then we control his access in and out. So he has to sit, he has to wait while we open that door. So we always have him, we got interrupted there for a second, so I'm just going to show you this again. Opening the crate door, He waits until I say go, send him in. He turns around, he gets another treat. So it's a super positive little exercise we do here. He goes in and he turns around, he gets a treat. You may not have even noticed it, but with that go gesture, good boy, I had a little treat that I threw in there to make sure that he would follow it in, because we're doing this video outside and his crate obviously is in the house, and so sometimes if the crate is in a new location they might hesitate a little bit. And also I had another purpose in doing that. When I'm not there and you're trying to do this in your house, very often the dogs, not very often, but a lot of times the dog decides they don't want to do it for you when they did it for me, and it seems like they're testing you, and so you need to really make sure that he does things the way that the way he does them with me. And one way to start getting and just get it primed up so it goes your way is to toss a treat in when you say go. And you may just have to do that for a couple of days or so, and then he starts doing it your way, like he does it here. So it's extra hard for him to do it out here in the yard where he's never gone in a crate out here before. And so I thought I'd show you this way. Once he's in there though, what we do every day is we take off his equipment. Doesn't take very long at all. And I have his whole going outside equipment on, which is the choke chain and the prong collar choke chain. When I take it off, I put the choke chain on, just hang it on the door, because if you put it down, it can get tangled up in itself, and then it takes you a while to untangle it. So just hang it there on the door. The choke chain is not for training, because this could really damage his throat. It's only for safety in case the little prong collar ever comes off. The choke chain is clipped to the leash as well, so that if the prong collar comes off of his neck, which sometimes it does out in public, because it's very small and kind of flimsy, the choke chain takes over and you don't lose the dog. So don't ever use this for training. When you have this on with the prong collar, it's always just hanging loose. It's only for a backup in case that one ever comes off. And I've never lost a dog because this takes over. Occasionally that little prong collar comes off. So that's why we use this. And at my place, he has spent his days all day long coming in and out. And he's probably in and out of this thing every hour or so. Out for, could be 15, 20 minutes, could be for an hour. It's always different yards because we have a really big place here. So he's used to the routine of exactly being put in exactly like I've shown you, and then being taken out like I'm about to show you. And it's not, going in the crate is not associated with any occurrence like you going to work or getting in trouble. It's just his life. It's going in and out, in and out. We always do this because with the training dogs, it adds structure to his life, of course. It's another place that you can send him and manage him if you need to manage him, if he's getting out of control, if you have visitors, or if you need to travel with him. He loves his crate. It's all built in there. And you can use it for whatever reason you want, but don't use it for punishment, since you can see through this video that it's all positive. He goes in, he gets a treat, you close the door. Now when we're going to take him out, and let's say we're going to take him out and take him for a walk, therefore we need the choke chain on, we're going to do it like this. We're going to open the door, I got a little treat in my hand, he gets a little treat and I draw it over his head, and then this collar here, attach it, then you attach the prong collar to the training collar, prong collar, to the funny spaced buckle. The ring is just a spacer, so don't touch the ring, and it should be like this, not tangled. And you reach in and you put on this prong collar above the other collar, so it's right below his ear, so it's the highest collar up. And then just by feel, you can clip the choke chain to the leash as well. So you got the leash and the leash attached to the choke chain and the prong collar. And this boundary is a very important boundary, so he needs to wait for permission to be allowed out. So I do this little exercise with the dogs every day where I step out. If he doesn't come out, good, he gets a reward. Make sure that you give him the reward inside, because you don't want to teach him to stick his head out by giving the reward outside. So you stick it in there, good, and I would stand back as far as I could. Good, because you never want him to be like so many other dogs that just, you open the door and they just burst out and knock you down. If he tries to come out before you allow him to, just do a gentle little closing and say no, like that. No treat, unless he waits. No. And then I always shoot for being able to, this door is kind of closing a little bit, but that's okay. Being able to go to the end of the leash, nope. If he tries to come out, you do that. Like I said, he's never done this out in the yard before. But you see how easy it is? Good to get him to do it the right way, even in a new spot. And then he gets a reward for waiting. And then you say, okay, pat your leg and say, okay, he'll come out. Always close his door, because remember, although when he's in there, that's his free time place. You're not doing sit or down or anything in there, but you do control his access in and out. So you close the door because he can only go in with your permission. And of course, it's always closed when he's in there because he can only come out with your permission. By the way, he gets his meals in there, his bones, chewies, everything. I know you have another dog at home. And so it'd be great to only give him his stuff in there, because that way the other dog can't get to those things, and you'll never have a fight because all of his stuff is in there, and it makes that place extra special because he gets to go in there and chew on his favorite bone. He's fed in there, and all good things happen in the crate, and that's why we use it that way. Okay. Sit. With his mat exercise, you always lead him up to the mat. You have him sit, and he waits to be allowed to go on the mat. He loves this exercise, so you really have to allow him to go on and make him wait. Go to your mat, and then walk him over and say down. And right now he's sniffing other dogs that were on there, so I had to help him a little, and I just kind of touched the leash and he went down. It's best if he's laying straight on the mat, so if he happens to lay sideways, you can take little treats you're using, and you can just, without touching him, you can lure him either by going that way, or you can come forward like this. Come on, buddy. Like this, and then you can lure him, because the goal would be that he flips around like that. Good. And then once he does that, you can reward him. And every dog is different. Some dogs just so easy, they follow it everywhere. And I've never had to do that with him, because usually, of course, when we're filming, he lays crooked. Usually he's like this and it's perfect when we're not filming. So anyway, that would be a way you could just lure him to be straight, and then he's in the middle of the mat. And then once he's there, good, you mark that behavior. You mark that spot, because that's where he gets the treat. And then you can just start off just doing this basic, just a basic downstay, which of course we do without the mat, but the reason that he does this so well in a public place is because from day one we did this here, and it's really the fast track. Doing this mat exercise in this way is a fast track to having a dog have a solid stay in general, because of course if he has a great stay in a down, it also helps his sit stay as well. Good. And of course we're doing it either in a fenced yard or inside the house, so it's safe to drop the leash and walk farther away. I usually save one exercise for the video that I've never tried before, and to show you how to work through problems. So let's see if he can do this or not. This yard is a main yard where he's here a lot, and so he sees us coming and going. When we leave, he's used to running up and like following us here while we leave. If we come back, he's used to running here when we come in the gate. So this is tough for him to stay in a down when I'm doing this, and I'm going to remind him down while I go out onto the street. And if he makes a mistake, I'm going to show you how to fix it, which he did, because I've never done that before. So if he makes a mistake and pops up, you say no. But you're not, it's not a correction, it's just no. Stay calm, gently but firmly, lead him back onto the mat exactly like that. Put him back. You already said D-O-W-N one time, and that one time you said it in the beginning needs to hold for this whole 5 minutes or so that we're doing this. But the extra reminder is just a reminder that I use the down when I'm teaching a dog something new. Other than that, you never repeat the command. So he knows the system, he gets it, and we're really lucky with him because sometimes with other dogs it takes several different repetitions, but this time he did it the second time, and I'm going to give him a double reward. Good, because he was successful at it. Let's see if we can get 2 times in a row. If we can get 2 times in a row, we know he's got this one. We cross this little thing off the list, and next time we try something that's harder. So one more time. Down. Good. Another reward. Whoops. I'm dropping food. Good. He gets rewarded. Big reward. And now tomorrow we would move on to trying something else that he hasn't tried before and try to see what triggers him to lose focus and pop up. Because that's all that happens when he gets up. Because we practice this every day. And at first, he couldn't even stay in a downstay when I walked this far. So we started off, he would even pop up. Once I stood up and walked out, he would pop up. So we started really easy. Every day we got him to realize, oh, I'm gonna stay here when he walks around me. And then I was walking away and going over there and doing all that. We just added something every day. So now we have a pretty high level of a downstay here. And of course, here on this property with these people, in his mind, this is all he ever does. And you see how calm he's on the mat? When you do this exercise the right way, every time you send him to the mat and practice it for a few minutes, he gets a little bit calmer. So, okay, you release him, sit, just like that. So you're gonna say, okay, you're gonna lead him off the mat, you're gonna have him sit, and then you pat his chest, you're never restraining him. Go, now he's free. So we're really after the byproduct of how we practice the mat exercise, how we practice the stays, is that we're really after every time you do this and you release him, he's a little bit calmer than he was yesterday and last week. And every day he gets a little bit more stable. Just building this calm internally in him so that he becomes more and more non-reactive with distractions, with people coming to your gate, with dogs out on the street, whatever your issue might be. And I was leading into a minute ago, he's that way here because that's all he knows here from day one. But coming to your house, he remembers other ways that he was, even though it was a short period of time before. And so you have to be really on top of it and do these moves exactly like you see in the video and the way we practiced, and when we were at your house, and just stick with the program because it might just be a week or so, but depending on how serious you are about it, you will have this, but you just have to do the same stuff there and get him used to the fact that that's all he does there as well. So it's just about you practicing. It's not about practicing for long periods of time. It's just about practicing, it's quality versus quantity. And if you can only do this mat exercise for 2 minutes as opposed to 5 minutes, just do it the right way. Make sure you end on a success and make sure that you release him in a calm way like you just saw. And every day he'll get a little bit better. So don't worry about long periods of time. Just worry about doing the training at a high level. Okay.